So I had been asked to give my thoughts and opinions on the skill expertise, what I personally believe is worth it or isn't, as well as just give like a little bit of what it actually entails, such as just what it is it means. However, I'm not really going to tell you what you should or shouldn't put into your skill expertise for two reasons. One, it depends on the type of builds you personally like playing regularly. If you're a skill build player, obviously you're going to prioritise your turrets, your drones, etc, etc. However, if you're more of a DPS player, you're probably not going to put much into your skills, maybe the occasional healing item or skill, if that's the way you wish to go, but you're mainly going to focus your weapons. And second reason being, I am the idiot that put over 300 exotics to max out a perfect glass cannon armor, so I don't think I'm the best judge of character of this, but still, I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions on it. So, let's have a look at what expertise on skills is capable of giving us. So we're just going to do an overview of all of them. Bombardier is 1% blast damage, Defender 1% damage reduction, Fixer 1% duration, Striker drone 1% damage, Tactician drone 1% scan range, Explosive sticky is damage, Burn sticky is burn damage, EMP sticky is EMP blast radius. For traps, Shock trap is duration, Shrapnel trap is damage, Repair trap is repair. For chems, Firestarter is damage. For Riot Foam, it's ensnare health, Enforcer is duration, Oxidizer damage. For shields, Bulwark, active regen, Crusader, active regen, Deflector, active regen, and then Striker shield is holstered regen. For your Fireflies, Blinder is 1% blind effect duration, Burster is 1% damage, Demolisher is 1% damage. For our Achilles, 1% damage, Banshee is 1% disorient duration. I have trouble saying that word for some dumb reason. Jammer is 1% radius. The remote scanner is duration. For the Hives, Artificer is tech efficiency, Booster is stim efficiency, Reviver is range, Stinger is damage, Restorer is essentially the duration the Hive is on the floor for. Decoy is 1% threat. For our turrets, Sniper damage, Artillery damage, Assault damage, Incinerator damage. And then we have our Seekers, Explosive 1% damage, Airburst 1% damage, Cluster 1% damage, and Mender Seeker Mine 1% healing for some dumb reason, I don't know why. So now we're just going to break these up. We're going to break them down into like their archetypes, kind of like the chems, the drones, the Fireflies, the Hives. I'm going to go through them one by one and just sort of give my thoughts and feelings on them. You may agree, you may not agree, that's fine. I don't think there's any particular sort of meta when it comes to these. I mostly view a lot of them as a complete and utter waste of time, but that's just me. So, first off, we have the chems, Firestarter chem. This is actually really good, especially if you're going for an Eclipse build. I would prefer if it was more burn damage rather than the initial burst damage, although it is pretty damn handy. It does make using Eclipse builds on higher levels definitely more viable, especially if you then start using it in multiplayer, although it can backfire if you then have to utilise or help out lower level players. You just start one-shotting everything on lower difficulties, which means the fire then cannot spread. For Riot Foam, Ensnare Health, this literally has like one purpose, and although it is a good purpose, you seldom ever need it. I have actually started investing into the Ensnare Health, and most enemies will not actually be subject to it. They get caught and they have to wait for the duration to end. However, Chungers, those pesky buggers, you know how when you get caught in foam, you basically, for PC, we have to hold F to break out of it. I'm not sure what it is on console, but you'll have to press a button to break out of it or wait for the duration to end. Chungers essentially have an F button, press X to doubt. If you Riot Foam them, they can essentially break out of it. That breakout animation can be delayed by the Ensnare Health. So the only time I really use this or worry about this if I'm doing legendary speedruns. It means I can hold that Chunga for like 1 second longer, which 1 second is a long time in speedruns, but for general play, completely useless. Reinforcer, 1% duration. This I personally actually find really useful, and since Expertise has come out, if I was originally using a fixer drone, I have now swapped over to Reinforcer with at least plus 15 duration on, just because it does so much more healing. It also benefits allies a lot more than the fixer drone would, and it is very, very handy. Oxidizer for 1% damage is kind of a double-edged sword. It is really handy. You can get a hell of a lot of damage out of it, and it is pretty damn good considering Oxidizer is like a stupidly OP skill if you can spawn trap with it. One flip side to this is the more damage you put into it, if something goes wrong, you are dead quicker. I mean, you basically one-shot yourself with it anyway, so I suppose tomato, right? Then we have drones, bombardier, blast damage. The only times this really comes in handy would be against chungers, and blast damage against chungers is kind of a no bueno because it divides your damage by 6, so Defender. At base, this has 30% damage reduction. Get it to Expertise 20, that's 50% damage reduction. That's great. The problem is the Defender drone lasts for about as long as I do in the bedroom department, which is nothing to brag about. So for me, damage reduction is kind of stupid. It needed duration. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure some PvPers are going to come flying out of nowhere and be like, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, just think about it. Would you rather have it like 50% reduction for like 5 seconds, or would you rather have 30% reduction for 20 seconds? I'll take the 30% for 20 seconds. Cheers. Like, just, I don't know. Fixer drone for duration, for me, this is utterly stupid, considering when you put the fixer drone up, it will only heal you when you're still. Chem does the exact same thing, also has a radius so you can move around a little bit, and the Chem actually does a lot more healing. So for me, fixer drone with duration is kind of a waste of time. The striker drone for 1% damage. This, I mean, I can see a lot of skill build players coming up with going, oh my god, it's so OP. It's just 1% base skill damage. So on a normal skill build, even at Expertise 20, that striker drone is going to get maybe a total of like 6 to 8% total increase in output. For the amount of resources you put into it, not worth it. Tactician drone for scan range. This is worth it depending on your build and how you are playing. If you make absolute use of the tactician drone, absolutely go for it. If not, we do have other options that are potentially more beneficial. So it really does depend on how you want to play. If you are a spotter, sharpshooter, good choice. If you're looking for something else that will help you along your spotter build, just going the scanner pulse route is so much more beneficial. Fireflies. Okay, full confession, I think I've used these once and I decided I didn't like them. So for me, every single one of these is a waste of time. However, that being said, I do get to see the blinder Firefly get used a lot, especially if you're ever watching Stella. He does some crazy things and just blinds the entire map with the Firefly. It's quite funny to watch. And I see a lot of speedrunners use the burster Firefly. However, I don't think any of them have put expertise into either of these, and they work pretty damn fine and work, yeah. The only one I can potentially see being of use would be the burster. I could be demolisher though, I could be wrong. The one that breaks chungers just by throwing it at them. Whatever one that is, like I said, full disclosure, I have never used these, I have no idea. Potentially on higher scaling, maybe the burster struggles breaking chungers on skill tier 0, so potentially it could be worthwhile. But then, to be fair, at the same time, I just dodge city them and ta-da, instant broken. So for me, these are pointless. Now for the hives, Artificer Hive. Yes, get it to 20, get it to 20 now. If you are a skill build player and you haven't got this to level 20, you are no longer an effective, efficient, worthwhile use of a skill build player. Like, the Artificer Hive is ridiculously overpowered anyway, and just being able to get an extra plus 20 free tech efficiency on the Artificer Hive without even putting a skill tier into it is ridiculous. Get this to 20. Booster Hive, kind of the same thing, but the commonality of having people run booster hives in groups, because solo, not really worth it. I suppose you could argue yes if you're running like a decent LMG build and you like using LMG builds, fair one, but No. Kind of no. Revive a Hive, +1 range. Just moving on. We're just moving on. We're going to ignore it. We're just going to move on. Sting a Hive, +1 damage. Now, if you are a skill build or a status player, why if you're a status player you're using the Sting a Hive other than to get bleeds for something, fine. But +1 damage, no. Bleed is, in terms of damage output, the weakest status in the game, so no point. And the Stinger, although it can hit really hard, yes, increasing damage, great, but I just don't see the point. I really don't. I would kind of feel like they should have been a bit more imaginative with the Hives. For the Restorer Hive, being able to keep it down for longer, okay, yeah, that's fine, especially for longer drawn out fights, but like, who doesn't just pick it up or overcharge it? Like, I kind of feel like that's just the worst thing ever. It's really dumb for me. I don't get it. It's just pointless. Right, now for the pulses. First one, Achilles. Yes. Like, if you use Achilles and you know how Achilles works, you know how powerful it is, adding in 20% damage to this is just, oh my god, yes. Banshee, the disorient duration. Yes, absolutely. These are typically used on DPS builds, so you have no skill tier whatsoever. So being able to get a 20% increase in duration is going to be very, very handy. Jammer Pulse, Radius. I kind of feel like this is a bit of a weird one, because typically whenever you're using Jammer Pulse, you're stood next to whatever it is you're trying to jam anyway. So I kind of feel like it's pointless, but at the same time, it's not doing any harm. Like, it's very middle of the road. It's like, it's not really needed, but then at the same time, it's just sort of like, you're not losing anything other than just materials, obviously. You're not really, it's not bad, it's not good either. The remote scanner pulse for Radius, I won't lie, I've never used this. I don't even know how it works. God, how can I give advice on something that I don't even know how it works? What I can say is the normal scanner, the duration of it, has a larger radius, because I've seen it on the stat screen, to increasing the duration. So for me, it's just sort of like, I don't understand why you would use the remote when you have the scanner in the first place. It seems like a cop-out of a skill, and increasing the scanner's duration is going to be more beneficial because cooldowns are a thing. So, yeah. That's kind of my stance on it. Like, why have the weak skill when you can have the stronger skill? They both do the exact same thing. Why would you pick the weaker one? The Mind, yay, explosive. I don't know anyone that uses that, so probably not. Airburst, I see this get used on some Eclipse build, and yes, it does more damage, but the cooldown's greater, so you're probably not going to get as much out of it as you think. Cluster Seeker Mines, these are really handy, but I personally don't see the point in investing into them. And then we've got the Mender Seeker Mine, the worst healing in the game, 1% healing, so it can be the worst healing in the game, plus 1%. Great, cheers, bye. Up next we have shields. Now this actually annoys me because it's 1% active regen, which means you have to have your shield out. If you have your shield out, you're most likely being shot, and no matter what you do, your active regen is not enough to counteract the damage you're actually taking on your shield, unless you're using like a bulwark, but then you're normally using that with Foundry, and the Foundry perk absolutely outperforms the active regen. If you have your shield out and you're not being shot, you're just slowing yourself down. So why it's active regen and not holstered regen, to me, is just like the dumbest thing ever. Striker shield is just 1% regeneration, and from testing and getting this to plus 10, it is holstered regen as well as active regen. So I would argue the striker shield is the only one actually investing expertise into, personally. Up next we have the stickies. Right, explosive sticky, damage. I see this get used seldomly, and by the looks of it, it does dumb damage anyway. So more dumb damage, I suppose. You're not really losing anything, you're just going to do more. Burn sticky for an Eclipse build, absolutely. If you're running an Eclipse build, this should be your priority. Like, ridiculously, yes. EMP sticky, I'm going to say no. Not because it's bad, Do you have any idea how many times I've seen people EMP themselves because they don't know their own radius? And increasing that by 20%. You're going to EMP yourselves. You're going to turn all your skills off. You're going to get staggered. You're probably going to get killed. Yeah, I see EMP Sticky kill more people in PvE than the bloody NPCs. It's absolutely ridiculous. So just for your own safety and sanity, I'm going to say no. Up next, we have the shock traps. Not shock traps, just traps. Shock trap, 1% shock duration. This can actually be really handy, although I would suggest only really using this in solo. I have noticed that one way to piss random allies, other agents, pickups, whatever you want to call them, one way to piss them off really quick is to throw shock traps around. It's hilarious, especially if someone's trying to snipe or headhunt or something. Shrapnel trap. This can be really, really powerful. It's just bloody awkward and annoying to use. It does absolutely ridiculous damage, but at the same time, I never really see it get used at all. Repair trap, we're just going to pretend it doesn't exist. Right, turrets. All of them are 1% damage. Now, for a skill build player, this is going to sound amazing, plus 20% increase in damage. However, like I said with the drones, or well, the striker drone particularly, it's still just base skill damage. So on a full out skill build, these skills are not going to get the increase you think. The artillery and sniper turret will get a sizable increase because you're essentially, like, they do stupid damage anyway, so increasing stupid damage by 20%, even if it is just its base value, is slightly more stupid damage. However, the assault turret and the incinerator, not so much, especially considering the incinerator does more damage from its burn proc than it does its actual friggin' damage. Yeah. Right, there is one last one which I haven't covered, which some of you might have noticed, and that is the wonderful, sexy, beautiful Decoy. Each expertise level gives 1% threat. Let me show you something. At skill tier 1, it gets plus 15 threat. Skill tier 2 gets plus 30 threat. Okay, it gets an increase in duration and health as well, but the threat is the main thing, which means at skill tier 0, you can essentially have near enough, I don't know, a skill tier 1.5 just by getting this to plus 20 expertise. Like, I mean, it's up to you whether you find this useful or not, but in terms of stats of what the Decoy gets compared to everything else, the Decoy is like the best thing to actually invest your expertise into, which is kind of comical. Yeah. Anyway, that's my thoughts and opinions on skill expertise. Have fun, good luck, don't die. It's bad for the health.